Okay, this is the China Profile Objective 2 about the basic role of government and politics in Chinese culture. And I think where we need to start is ancient times, or would be ancient times. Now, for most of Chinese history, a leader had its legitimacy, or a government got its legitimacy from the mandate of heaven. Now, in democracies around the world, you need the mandate of the people. They have to believe in you and vote you into office, et cetera, et cetera. But in ancient China, the idea was that if you were part of one of the dynastic families, and if your dynasty was in charge and you were put in charge as a member of that family, then you had the mandate of heaven. You had the mandate of the gods. You were supposed to be there. And for the most part, Chinese people accepted that. They said that this is where this person is supposed to be. So you didn't see a ton of rebellions against the Chinese leaders throughout their history. Now, obviously, Chinese government has changed quite a bit today. And today, in the modern sense, well, this is the center of the mandate of whatever you want to call it now, the heaven, the Chinese people, whatever. But the bottom line here is that this is the city of Beijing. Now, China has, of course, tried to modernize in recent years, particularly economically, and its capital city reflects that. Beijing is a very major economic center. It is a very modern city, and it reflects the efforts, like I said, of China to move toward a more modern sense of doing things in economics. In government, though, it's a little bit different. The government hasn't necessarily made the move to be as economically or as open as they have economically. This is the Chinese Communist Party, which controls the state and the military and basically dominates the government. It really is the only party in China, realistically. And Communist Party members are the officers and the leaders and the people who work in just about every aspect of the government itself. Now, the Chinese government does have three branches of government. They do exist, but there are no checks and balances because you don't need them. Everything is run by the communists and the Chinese Communist Party, also known as the CCP, anyway. Now, this is the legislative branch of China on the outside, which is also referred to as the People's National Congress. Important to remember that. On the outside, it doesn't look like much. On the inside, it's actually pretty cool. Nice architecture, nice design, as you can see here. Now, the People's National Congress chooses a president and vice president, but as far as their overall roles and responsibilities, those are things we're going to get into in a lot more depth in Lesson 3. The executive branch is a little bit different than the United States. They actually have two people in the executive branch, a president, also known as the general secretary, and the premier. Now, the president, or general secretary, since 2012, has been a guy named Xi Jinping, and this is him right here. The premier, on the other hand, has been a guy named Li Keqiang, and he's been the premier since March of 2013. They're appointed by the president. But they do a little bit more than the president does. Their actual role is to be the head of government. Now, a lot of times the president or vice presidents will handle more of the ceremonial roles, but the premier is the one who is actually the head of government and runs what's going on. The Chinese judicial branch is known as the People's Court, and it may be one of the most fascinating things to look at in the world today. It's a very unusual court system, very different than what you would see in most other courts around the world. Justice is very swift, and it's very, very harsh. People have been known to get excessive penalties for not paying their taxes. We're talking about life imprisonment, things along those lines. And the Chinese courts, listen to this number, the Chinese courts have a 99% conviction rate. So essentially, if you're accused of something in China, that's almost good enough to be, to call it a day. You almost don't even need to have a trial of any sort because of a 99% conviction rate. And China, over the years, has also made extensive use of the death penalty, either by single firing squad like this or by multiple firing squad in some cases as well. There really is no political party system because the Communist Party dominates everything, and there really is no political participation. And frankly, the influence of media in China, while it is strong, really doesn't do much to help the people participate in politics either. The vast majority of Chinese media is controlled by the government as well. But one part of Chinese society that has a lot of influence on the government is the Chinese military. They have 15 million personnel approximately, which makes them the largest in the world, and they know how to get things done. They have a huge influence on Chinese policy. Probably not this way, but I just kind of thought it was a cool picture. Okay, that's it for the basic profile of China Objective 2. Thanks for listening.